So looking back, how would I have done things differently? I think I would have taken the opportunity to trust God with step one earlier and more completely. A good friend asked me if nothing else happens, that I would be able to look back and say, I trusted God. Whatever happened in this situation, no matter what my performance was, I trusted God with this situation. And that doesn't look like just taking your hands off the wheel and saying, Lord, take it from here. It means being diligent. It means working hard. It means putting in the time. But it also means working from a position of confidence rather than a position of fear. And I've realized over the last 10 to 12 years that step one is just the first thing that we feel like our performance will determine the next 20, 30, 40 years of our life. And in reality, how we perform on written boards, how we find a job, what city we live in, what community, group of friends, what spouse we choose, how many kids we have, how we parent, all those things have just as much, if not more, impact on the rest of our lives. And the thing that supersedes all of that is our relationship with Christ, because that's the thing that is truly transcendent and more permanent.
So what would I do differently? I would definitely say less worrying. Like I talked about how I would rely on myself and others for advice, and just got really stressed out because I didn't know how to handle all of the choices and decisions that I had to make during third year. And so I feel like if I had committed my ways to God and trusted in Him more from the beginning, then I would have worried less. And also, in terms of choosing a specialty, I would definitely advise you to choose one based on what you're good at, what you love doing, because that's what I finally settled with. I know that in the beginning, there was one specialty that I was considering, and I think that I was thinking a lot about, oh, it's a really like easy residency. I'm gonna have a really good lifestyle. I'm not gonna have to work that much. And while those things are all good, those won't really sustain you if you don't really love what you're doing. So that's it.
Just read Psalm 127. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep. If I could go back, I would worry a lot less. I would trust God's plan for me, because it's been totally awesome, and he's provided for me perfectly, and I would just spend more time getting to know him and learning who he is and working diligently for his glory instead of trying to build my career with my own two hands.
Med school was a great time for me, in God's grace and due to friendships and MCO in the church, and older men that were investing in me at the time. And I am so thankful for that time. It was still characterized by a small amount of anxiety throughout the whole process. I knew early on that I wanted to do radiation oncology, and I didn't see anything else in all of medicine that I would really be excited about. And I was a mediocre to poor student in the first 2 years, and I knew going into step one that I was kind of behind the curve. I'm coming, again, not to list anything, but there were just other factors that were stacked against me, or so I thought. And that led to a lot of anxiety. And, I was trying to preach to myself that God would use me no matter what. But that's a hard thing to preach when you're in the moment. And so I feel you on that one. Looking back, it's easy for me to say that not to do that because things worked out for me in that way. I matched into radiation, and I've loved it ever since. But I want to encourage you that it's not because things just worked out for me that has characterized the rest of my career so far. God is going to use you. He didn't bring you to medical school to allow you to fail and to avoid all the plans that He's had for you before. He's totally sovereign over these things. And if you're going for a specialty and you don't get it, there's always opportunity, and He can use you in mighty ways in other options. Even if you were to fail out of medical school, no matter what scenario you would envision, God can use it. And God's plans are better and greater than your plans. And so mitigating that anxiety should be done in finding your identity in Christ, and not by taking comfort in your research or your board scores or your grades or any of those things, your social abilities, whatever, you name it. It's not comforting. It's not where your comfort should come from. I didn't do particularly well in step one. I can make up worldly reasons why that was. I mentioned Kaplan review course and, my study approaches. I was very disciplined. I didn't do a lot of the QBank. I didn't get through the first QBank the full time. Those are all practical things that I wish probably had approached better. I probably would have put more emphasis on the QBanks and just understanding strictly what's in the QBank rather than watching videos and reading books and that sort of thing. But I think realistically, if you're very disciplined about your studying, 5 weeks or 4 weeks is very reasonable. And I'm very happy with the decisions I made to go on SMI and to try to put as much as I could the community that I was in and ultimately my engagement to my now wife ahead of career decisions throughout third and fourth year. Hopefully that was helpful.
So I was not the best at sticking to the commitments that I've been telling you to stick to, depending on the rotation. I was often absent from church and Bible study, and I could tell after missing those things for a few weeks and trying to survive the stress of whatever rotation I was on, surgery or OB-GYN or internal medicine, trying to survive those, the difficulties of those rotations without the support that I was used to, became very obvious that it was going to be much more difficult. And fortunately, those sorts of feelings kind of got me going back when they did happen. So I would do a better job about sticking to the commitments. And so the other part, looking back, what I would do differently is I would continuously remind myself to just calm down about all the things that I was stressing out about, whether it be a shelf exam, whether it be letters of recommendation, how you are perceived by the residents and the attendings, and all that, and just realize that you're just there to learn. As long as you work hard while you're there, everything's going to work out. You're going to do the best you can, and how you're perceived by different faculty or residents has little to nothing to do with how much you stress about that sort of thing. So looking back, I would focus more on just working hard while I was there, and then honestly on trying to be there as little as possible, so that I would have time to stay in the Word, to stay healthy, to stay in community, and not spend every waking moment of every day either at work or studying, which in some rotations I sort of fell into that habit depending on how I felt, or honestly how committed I'd been to being at prayer or Bible study or going to church. So I think everything works out. You'll do great on step one. Definitely go on the SMI. Having that as a decompression period
between second and third year, I think, was super vital, because not only was it something in between step one and third year to sort of decompress, but it wasn't just a vacation. It really helped you sort of recenter and focus on why you're doing this in the first place. So I definitely recommend doing the SMI between second and third year, and don't try to study for step one for 7 or 8 weeks. Just cut it off at 5, and you'll get everything in you need to do. So all the best.
So what habits helped me stay in the spirit during board study time? I got married after first year of medical school, and having a spouse helped me so much. In sanctification, you can't really run away. You're there, and you have to work things out and work through problems. And having a spouse really helped me stay grounded and not let board study just become this overwhelming idol and just consuming everything about me. Because you're going to see it if you haven't already in classmates, and especially people that are non-believers. It's everything to them. There's this lie that this is going to determine your future and your specialty and your residency and your happiness, and that's just not true at all. Staying connected in MCO was really crucial. Going to Bible study every week, being around other believers, and especially being around people that were further along than you, that had made it through the other side, was really encouraging. And being involved in a local church too is just so crucial. And I just encourage everybody to make time and make that a priority, especially during time for board study.
Looking back, what would I do differently? Nothing. I think that medical school was just such an incredible journey. There were definitely times that were incredibly difficult and times that were incredibly joyful. There are decisions that I, had to make, and whether they were wrong or right, I ended up exactly where I needed to be, and I thank the Lord for that. I do think, I don't even know, it's impossible sort of to do this, but I guess maybe I would have just been a little bit more present. I do think I spend a lot of time agonizing over decisions, and I think I'm still learning even today that sometimes you just have to decide and trust God, and that you cannot wait to wake up and have things written on the ceiling, because that's just not the way it works. We have to trust God to order our steps and be a good steward of our time and our talents, and try and stay stay growing, stay in the Word, stay in prayer, and just trust God. Just be still and know. That is so important. And I've gotten off topic. The question was, would I do anything differently? And I guess I'll just round it back out at no. And I would challenge all of you guys just to continue to be present, to look for the growth in each struggle, look for the testimony in every trial, as they say, and lean on your community. That was the best decision that I made, was to get involved and stay involved with MCO. It changed my life for the better. It grew my relationship with Christ, and that is one thing I certainly would not do differently. So I think that's all I've got. Please feel free to call me with questions, comments, or concerns about anything, what I do, where I am, how I'm doing it. I would be more than happy to talk with any of you. I am currently on call, so I will end this video now, and hope that the doctors next door can't hear me talking to myself. Bye, guys.